Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Mortgage Coach Tuesday morning weekly coaching call. Every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock Pacific time, we are all here to connect as a community of like-minded, like-valued mortgage professionals to learn the ideas and strategies that are working best in the market, in the trenches right now, and to get focused on the week and the month ahead. My name is Dave Savage. I'm the CEO and founder of Mortgage Coach. If there is anybody that is new to this coaching call, this is the first Tuesday morning coaching call that you've been on, would love to have you raise your hand just so we can do a quick shout out and see how many new people. Eric, Chaz, welcome to the community. It's great to have you on this. Adam, welcome. So you folks, you now know how to raise your hand. I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand, but that is how you participate in a call. One of the things that make these calls even more valuable is when people do raise their hands, participate. You raise your hand, I unmute you, and then you can ask myself. Today our guest is Tim Braheem, or any guest we have on any given week questions. So I encourage you to do that. I do want to remind everybody that every call we do every Tuesday morning, they are recorded and they're available in the community. You have to be logged in first. Notice in the upper right-hand corner, I've already logged in. MortgageCoach.com, log in, go to weekly coaching calls, and if you miss a week, you can always listen to it. So we've got a pretty, I would say, beefy but simple agenda. I'm going to ask a few survey questions that I thought would be a great setup to the conversation that we're going to have with Mr. Tim Braheem, and then I'm going to do a proper introduction of, well, actually, I'm going to save the real big introduction, but Tim, I do want to encourage you, as I ask these survey questions, if you have some comments or thoughts, don't hesitate to jump in. All right. Okay. First survey question is, how many loans are you closing this month? So, you know, again, guys, this is just between you and me. I don't know who's voting what. I just want to get a general feel for the amount of loans that folks on this call, that the community is at large, is closing this month. So, you know, if you've got 3 scheduled to fund, but you don't know if one's going to fund today, you know, assume 2. Just want to get a good feel for where you guys are at as a community. And again, everybody knows in order to get a good, statistically valid survey, I need 72% of everybody to vote. Right now we're at about 60. So you 40% holdouts, come on, give us a vote. Participate in the call. If you're not going to raise your hand and ask a question, at least vote so we've got some perspective of where everybody's at. Come on, one last push. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share those results. 26% are closing 8+ loans, so big high five, congratulations to everybody in that category. 44%, 4 to 7, and 26%, 1 to 3, and the folks, there are a small few people that are closing 0. Tim, any comments or thoughts on those results?
No, I mean, I'm a little surprised with the numbers, but that's okay. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the body of the call.
All right, we'll go there. So what is your standard of great customer service? So again, I'm not asking you what do you execute on, what do you strive for? And I know this seems like such an obvious question for some, but really, I want to know what are you guys striving for from a perspective of delivering great customer service? No, forget it. Not great. I'm putting words in your mouth. What are you striving for in terms of your levels of customer service? So by the way, guys, we've only have 41% of you who have voted. Come on, give me some votes. 60%, just past the 50% mark. So easy to vote. Why not? Tim, how do you think everybody's going to vote?
I'm not logged on your desktop because I have some difficulties with that. So you're gonna have to just read me what the categories were about, and then I'll certainly comment.
Okay, so first one is exceptional / wow. That's the top. Great, good, average, and poor.
What we're asking, what they strive for?
Yeah. What's your goal?
Well, I mean, I would hope to think that everybody has the same answer, which is wow. But
No, everybody did not have the same answer. So 65% said wow, 32% said great, and 3%, just a couple cynics out there, just had to push poor. So, and I'm sure that's just the humorous vote. I had to put poor, by the way, guys, just to put the full range. So anyways, interesting. It is an interesting concept that everybody does not put exceptional, at least from a goal perspective. But we'll get to that in a few. And then the last question is, what percentage of your borrowers are receiving a total cost analysis? Again, everybody on this call is a Mortgage Coach member. Where are you at delivering a total cost analysis to your borrowers? Is 100% of them getting it? 90%? 50 to 90? Less than 50%? Guys, thanks for the quick votes. We got a healthy participation rate very quickly. Come on, guys, let's push it to 70%. There's a few of you that have been holding out all morning on us, and then we can get into the meat. This is the last survey question. So, Tim, any guesses on that one?
Well, my guess is probably 50% or less, and the reason is because in a refi market, everybody's busy and they're just throwing out payments and not necessarily executing best practices would be my usage of the terminology as they do when it's a purchase market. But I hope that it's a much higher percentage than that.
So the drum, no problem. The drum roll, please. And the results are 18% are doing it on 100%, so almost 20%. That's solid. 23%, 90%. So that puts 40% of you on this call are delivering a TCA over 90% of the time. 43% said 50 to 90, and 16% said less than 50%. So cool.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, that's not bad. I wouldn't say that's great, but it's definitely not bad. So I'm going to do a proper introduction for Tim. I do want to remind everybody, please, to make these calls more valuable, don't hesitate to raise your hand. I will keep an eye out for those folks that are raising their hands to bring you into a conversation with Tim, and you one-on-one can ask Tim Braheem a question. So I've known Tim, I don't even know how many years now. It seems like you are what I consider a lifetime friend. 15 plus years. For those of you that don't know Tim, which I'm sure there's a few people on the call that don't, in my opinion, he's one of the best loan officers in the history of our business. Tim, what was your production in some of your best years as a loan officer?
My best year was 04. And I did 683 loans, 235 million in production. 03 was 176 million in production. 02 was 158 million in production. So those are my three best years.
And those are, for many people, 1 year is a career. I mean, $200 million in production in business in a year. And it's safe to assume this guy knows how to win confidence and trust, knows how to get referrals, and knows how to manage his time and execute a whole lot of business. So, and like I said, I've known most of the industry's best loan officers, and I know of no better loan officer than Tim Braheem in his heyday. He's also been a very successful entrepreneur and industry leader. And when I say that, to me, an industry leader is someone that shares what's working for them. They share what they're passionate, they believe about, what they believe. He's done that since the early years as a loan officer. He'd get on stage and be very transparent, share his best ideas and strategies, and do it in a way that was just exceptional. Really, there's those people that get on stage and they share you 5 minutes worth of information over the course of an hour. Every minute Tim is on stage is just meat, just value. Successful entrepreneur. He was the founder of Loan Toolbox, sold Loan Toolbox. What is it, almost 5 years now? How many years has it been?
5 years, yeah.
5 years. So again, a real past treasure to our industry and a great entrepreneurial effort on Tim Braheem's part. And he took, I'd say 3 to 4 years, and really, I don't want to say reinvented himself because he's always been a teacher, but went and got his advanced degree in spiritual psychology and really just invested in himself in becoming a more mature, a more academic, a better mentor, leader, and coach. And so today, Tim Braheem is in our community as a mentor and coach. He's got a really, very interesting, very powerful company that he has started. It's going on almost a one-year anniversary, Tim. How long has it been since you founded your performance coaching program?
It's been about 9 months actually.
9 months? So great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So before I get into the questions, Tim, how many people are you coaching right now, and how many of them are in our industry? And just kind of give us a flavor for your coaching practice.
Well, I started off with only coaching 9 clients because I wanted to get kind of a feel for what the workload would be like for me. And I'm still going to school. I graduate in August. And very flattering to me. Of those 9, 8 of those 9 are in the mortgage business. And somewhat surprising and flattering to me was that all 9 of them, at the end of their coaching tenure, renewed. So I added, because I'm going to be graduating and my homework will cease to continue, thank goodness, I decided to go ahead and add 5 more clients from my waiting list, so I have 14 private coaching clients. And then on top of that, when you count the retreats that I do, the strategic business and life planning retreats and the Sacred Connection Couples Retreat, you can add about another half dozen clients in the mix. I'm coaching about 20 people right now in various capacities.
Okay, fantastic. So again, someone who has a tremendous amount of background himself as an implementer and executor, and has someone that is very close to the street, the trenches today, because he's talking to some extremely successful, superhuman loan officers, and some loan officers that are wanting to get there. I mean, not every one of Tim's client is a super producer. So
yeah,
so
if
Tim,
I could real quick comment on that, because I think that there's this perception that for whatever reason is out there that I only coach people who do 50, 60, 70, $100 million a year. That wouldn't be the case. I have clients that my highest volume client funds about 60 loans a month. I interviewed him a couple months back here on this same platform, Michael Shane, and then I have clients who are doing 8 deals a month. So it's a pretty broad mix. Is my point.
Not a problem. So Tim, what have you learned since you got back in the game, and really started mentoring and coaching? And I'm sure you could go on, and we could do the whole call on that one question, but anything top of mind come up?
Yeah, I've learned nothing. I mean, I know that probably sounds like when I say I've learned nothing new, meaning that I really don't think anything's different. Yes, turn times are slower. Yes, the time it takes to process a loan now is greatly different than it was 5 years ago. But frankly, not a lot different than it was 15, 17 years ago, Dave, when you and I were originating loans in the early part of our career, when loans, in many ways, the mortgage business has kind of come full circle and gone back to some degree, maybe not quite to the extreme, but to some degree, where it was, back in the early 90s. I've also, I guess I shouldn't say I've learned nothing. What I've learned is, and this is kind of as a result of not only my own personal work on myself, but my 3 years of getting my master's degree, is that so much of our success in whatever we do in life, whether it be as a loan originator or anything else, has to do with how we feel about ourselves. And when we get into the issue of service a little bit later in the call, I'll touch upon that. But the reality of it is that if you wake up in the morning and you go through your day in a manner that really allows for you to feel good about who you are, and you make the right decisions with your actions that you take, and you operate from a place of integrity, and you get rid of that critical voice that exists in so many of our heads, and you really support and love yourself, boy, the job gets a lot easier too. And this is one of the things that I work on with basically all of my clients, and we really look at things from a very holistic perspective. So, we can address things such as time management or scripting or marketing or systems of facilitating loans more rapidly, but within that always lies you and how you are within the context of that subject matter. And maybe a good way of saying it is how you relate to the issue is the issue. And I'm going to repeat that and give it a little pause, and everybody take that in and let it marinate for a minute. How you relate to the issue is the issue. So if you're stressed out right now and you can't get loans done as quickly as you want, and the service is not as good as you want it to be because underwriting's bad, or your company's not supporting you in the way that you would want to be supported, or all of the other things that are taking place out there, the biggest issue is how you relate to that situation. If you relate to it in a way that subsequently results in you having a lot of stress and anxiety, boy, it's going to really affect all aspects of your life. Not only how you continue to perform throughout the remainder of that day as a loan originator, but how you perform when you walk in the door at night and engage with your family. Subsequently, if you don't take things too seriously and really try to put things into perspective, it can have a very dramatic positive impact on the energy that you bring to each and every phone call and each and every encounter that you have with prospective clients and referral sources. So, really paying attention to the energy that you put off on a daily basis has a lot to do with your success. I mean, you're a magnetic human being if you love yourself, and you walk through your day with a smile on your face and are reeking of positive energy, if you will. And subsequently, we all know people who reek very badly of negative energy. I mean, they're just always complaining, they're always in a bad mood, and nobody wants to do business with those people. And their career is and their life is just one big challenge. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned, Dave, is just how you relate to yourself and how you relate to the issue really is the issue, and has a lot to do with the subsequent success we have in our business.
I think that's a huge epiphany, and I hope everybody does write that down, really put some thought into it. And while Tim, at the kind of conclusion as he was summing it up, he mentioned two kind of opposites. The person who is really healthy, really vibrant, call it that passionate, positive person, the antithesis, the negative. But there's so many people that are just in the middle. They're hollow, and or they've lowered their standards because they've disappointed themselves so many times. And again, I'm not going to put everybody on the spot who put good or put great instead of exceptional. But I believe if you really want to make the most of your life, you've got to make the most of your day, and it's a sum total of your standards and your decisions. So, I just hope everybody in the middle really captures that. I mean, we could spend a whole call on that thought itself, but a very powerful takeaway. Takeaway number one.
Yeah, let me add a slight embellishment to that, Dave. It's like, I know that there are a lot of people out there right now. My hunch is that a significant percentage of the people that, when it came to the question on service in your survey, that put, good or excellent.
Great. It was either exceptional or great.
Okay, great. My guess is that some large percentage of those people put that versus wow because they feel like they don't have control of the service that they provide. Either they don't have control of their processor because they don't have their own processor, they don't employ their own processor, or they're a broker and they're brokering loans and they're getting terrible turn time, or they're a banker and their company is providing terrible turn time. And I know too many people that are in that boat right now, so there has to be people on this call that fall into that category. And my son, who's 14 years old, really deep and bright kid, he and I were having a talk last night about something kind of off subject matter, but it really supports this whole notion of how you relate to the issue is the issue. He has a friend, a very dear friend of his, who's also 14, whose father just passed away of cancer. And Trey, my son, has known Alex's father for his whole life, and it was a really tough thing for my son to go through, seeing his good buddy's dad pass away. And he went over to visit Alex yesterday, and when he went over, he thought to himself, he expressed this to me afterwards, he's thinking to himself, there's really only one of two things that Alex can be going through right now, or how he can be approaching this. He can either choose to shut down and internalize his feelings about losing his father, or he can talk about it. And he was telling me, he was explaining to me on the phone last night, my son was saying, I just wanted to let him know that I was there to listen, so I could give him a place to open up and talk about it if he wanted to talk about it. And I was so proud of him for that observation, because what essentially he was saying, and looping this back to business, is that we are responsible for our own behaviors and our own feelings. At the end of the day, nobody can make you feel anything. Okay, we know too many people who, no matter how ugly the situation is, they've got a smile on their face. And we know too many people, no matter how good the situation is, they'll find the bad in it. Okay, we ultimately are responsible for our own feelings, and as Eleanor Roosevelt once said, nobody can make you feel anything without your consent. So when it comes to the subject matter of service, I just wanted to add this to the equation, that as much as so many of us currently in the industry feel that we're subjected to poor service platforms and that we don't have any control of it, I would counter and say you do. What you have control over is how you relate to that situation, how you communicate with your customer about it, the expectations that you set, how you deal with your underwriters for your companies that you broker to, or your underwriters in-house if you're a banker, how you deal with your processors when they're stressed out. Probably the top thing that I've been working with my clients on over the last 3 or 4 months is their interaction with their team, how they, you all have processors right now that are greatly overworked and stressed out. They've been working their tail off for upwards of a year now, and in some cases even longer, depending upon how much volume you do. How you manage and deal with their stress and manage and deal with yours has a very substantial impact on the service that you actually provide to people. So at the end of the day, I just really want to impart upon everyone, no matter how bad the external forces seem to be, it's how you relate to those external forces that is truly the issue as to how things will manifest within the context of your business and how you're perceived by your clients.
Solid. Thanks, Tim. So as we kind of tee off a main topic of today's call, I read this headline: the future of your business hinges on it. So what do you guys think Tim's talking about when he has that headline? And by the way, this is a headline to a blog post that really inspired today's conversation with Tim and I. He posted on his blog a post that started with this headline. I read it. I loved it, and I'm like, Tim, let's do a call. Let's center the content around this. So what do you think he's talking about when he says this? Just let's have a little pause. Again, if we were in a live audience, we would take some guesses at this point, but we're not live, and the topic was customer service. So, Tim, let's start with, why did you write this blog post? Obviously, you're not one of those guys that's writing a blog post, multiple times a day. It seems like your rhythm. Is it weekly, by the way? Is that
once
kind of the rhythm?
Once a month, every month.
Okay, so it's a monthly. So
Yep.
you're taking the time to really articulate your thoughts around a topic once a month, and you chose this. So let's start with why you did that.
I'm a stickler for good service. Not only was it something that I took very, very seriously as a loan originator, but I also took very seriously when I was a CEO of Loan Toolbox. I think that we provide phenomenal service to our members back then, and I'm like deeply, to an excessive degree, I'll be the first one to admit it, I'm like deeply disturbed and offended when somebody provides me with horrible customer service, and I am equally wowed and enamored and loyal to those that provide me with great customer service. It's just a real sensitive subject matter to me, and one that I've just, for whatever reason, I've always been just a huge fan of great customer service platforms, and when I experience it, I just really love the experience as a consumer. And the reason that I wrote about it was because I know, first of all, from working with my current clients, that customer service right now is a challenging issue for so many of you. And I know that it's very easy from my own personal experience when things get really busy, it's really easy to kind of cut corners and skip over doing all the little things. When I was doing 50, 60 loans a month for several years in a row there, it would be very, very seductive to just quote rates, quote payments, churn through as many leads as you can, and forget about doing all of the things that I knew that I should be doing to make sure that I'm providing great customer service. But thankfully, I resisted that temptation, and I hired more people to make sure that we were making, not ever taking for granted the importance of providing great customer service. And the reason that it's such a critical thing, the reason that I say that your future depends upon it, is because really at the end of the day, Dave, it's a zero-sum game. You're either providing great customer service or you're not. And good doesn't fall into the category of great. It's either great, exceptional customer service and or anything else, which could vary from good to so-so to poor. But all of those things result in the results are not what you want. So you have one of two things that can happen. You either have a customer at the end of the transaction, and I believe you're the one who said this, it's a memorable experience. I believe I've heard you use that term before, and I really love that phraseology. You either are remembered afterwards in a very fond way, or you're not. It doesn't mean that they have to be pissed off at you. I mean, they could just be like, that was okay. But, it was okay. They might as well be angry with you. I mean, they're not going to come back. And more importantly, they're not going to refer anybody to you. Now, let's analyze this for just a second. So if I do a loan for somebody this month, and it's a zero-sum game, and I provide phenomenal customer service to that person, I mean, I really go above and beyond. I really wow them. They really take note. They're really like, gosh, that was way better than I expected. Okay. How many loans could we safely guess that person's going to do in the next 10 years? I'll just pull a number out of the air and say 3. And, it could be 2, it could be 5, but let's just go with 3 because I think it's a pretty safe number. 3 loans in the next 10 years. So you just got 3 loans by providing great customer service. You didn't have to do anything to market for them. You didn't have to spend any money. It was extraordinary to get those loans. You just earned 3 loans over the next 10 years. Now you multiply that by all the loans that you did this month, all the loans you did last month, all the loans that you've done over the last year, okay? And you're setting up your future. The future of your business depends upon you making sure that you create a memorable experience and exceed the expectations of your client. And if you do, they will come back. If you don't, they won't. And you will have to reinvent yourself every single year. In the years when I did, 200 million, average 200 million over the course of a 3-year period of time, to be exact, I used to come home. I remember I'd come home and walk into the kitchen, and I'd talk to my wife at the time, and I'd say, gosh, I can't believe what I've created. I mean, this is unbelievable. I'd be like laughing in astonishment. Every day I would get 4 or 5 new deals. Every day. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, the phone would just ring. So-and-so said that I should call you and work with you. Or it'd be a past client saying, hey, I'm buying a new home and I want you to do my loan for me. Over and over and over. I didn't have to spend any money. The phone just kept ringing because of the fruits of all of the labor of the service that I provided in years past. Now, I haven't even addressed the issue of how many referrals you get. So just in repeat business alone, let's say 3 out of every 10 years you get 3 deals. But what about if you really blow people's mind, Dave? What about how many of those people actually then send you their relatives and friends and work associates, etc.? So when I say the future of your business depends upon it, I mean, it really does. I mean, and the reason that so many people, it's kind of interesting to me. I mean, I talk to people from time to time that have been in the business 15 years, and they're still doing, 6 deals a month. And I'm not, in any way ridiculing anybody who's doing 6 deals a month. But in today's market, If you've been in the business for 15 years and you're doing 6 deals a month or 5 deals a month or something like that, you probably didn't provide great customer service in the 15 years past, because if you did, all of those people would be coming back and doing loans with you this year with where rates are at. So I really want to impress upon everyone in closing that every single deal is worth a third of a deal a year on average if you do a great job.
Wow. So when you really think about it, it is the foundation to your success. When you really look back and you think of all the tactics, everything you did, all the strategies, there was nothing more powerful than just delivering exceptional service to every client, regardless of your market conditions, regardless of how busy you are. You executed great, no, not great, exceptional, wow service every single time, and nothing is more important.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, we really, really did. I mean, I can proudly and comfortably say we did an extraordinary job for our clients, and that was why I was fortunate enough to have the success I had.
So let's just, I think you did a good job of describing it. You monetized it. Let's just all assume that's a truth, that the foundation, the most important strategy that any originator can have is delivering exceptional wow service and closing the transaction in a memorable way. And by the way, a positively memorable way. If anyone, wants to dispute that or chat about that, raise your hand. I will bring you into the conversation. But let's just consider that a truth. So let's get a little more tactical. What are some of the success habits of wow service? And let's just call it that, wow service, for lack of a better word at this point. I think you actually used that term in your article, and obviously everybody on the Mortgage Coach call knows that it's a term I have a lot of passion for. So what are some of the success habits, Tim?
Okay, well, I think that, trying to take them in some reasonable order of kind of the process flow. I think that first and foremost is that you have to be very, very diligent in your follow-up skills when the person is a lead, and make yourself very much available to that person to educate them. So when a new lead comes in, whether it be a purchase or refi, it's like, do you have a system in place? And I mean, we're on a Mortgage Coach conference call, for God's sakes. I mean, that system is the system that I used. I mean, I provided the total cost analysis to every single client, and I built my entire front-end presentation around educating the client on how to prepay principal, what the tax deductibility was, how to allocate those savings into an asset accumulation account, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, right out of the gate, the very first thing that you need to be doing to provide exceptional customer service is teaching them something that they didn't already know. If you teach people something that they didn't already know, you're going to get them to go with you almost 100% of the time. I mean, there'll be very few exceptions as to why they won't go with you if you've taught them something truly valuable that they didn't know. And by definition, that's great customer service. Okay, so right up front, being properly scripted, having a system for selling yourself, really taking the extra time to educate yourself on being a student of finance, on how to articulate the choices and options for people to make an intelligent and prudent financial decision is critical. Okay. Next is setting proper expectations, and I cannot emphasize this enough. The problem that we often have is that because we're trying to get the person to say yes, okay, I'm going to repeat that, because we're trying to get the person to say yes, our vulnerabilities and insecurities can click in and infiltrate our sales process. And what I mean by that is, when I say infiltrate, is that we can tend to, with all good intention, but out of our own self-serving desire to get the person to say yes, we can tend to overpromise and then subsequently set ourselves up to underdeliver. And what I would offer to you is that to provide great customer service requires the exact inverse. It requires that you underpromise and overdeliver. You see, if you underpromise and overdeliver, you now by definition are exceeding the expectations, not falling short of the expectations of your client. So I would caution you to take a long look at whether or not you at times will tell people that you can do things for them that you likely can't do. Because when you do that, you've just completely removed those 3 deals over the next 10 years because you have disappointed the client by setting up an unrealistic expectation. And it takes a confident and secure salesperson to be able to say to a real estate agent, to a client, to a financial planner that's representing a client, business manager, etc., no, I can't do that in the time frame that you're asking me to do it in. But here's what I can do, and here's why I think that it will still work for you. That takes a lot of confidence and security within. But I would rather have each and every one of you be completely honest and upfront and set proper expectations and lose a deal here or there than I would have you falling into the habit of overselling and not being able to deliver. Because what happens is that when you put yourself into a situation where you've committed to doing something that you can't then therefore deliver upon, now you have dramatically affected your relationship with yourself, and this is the part that I'm most concerned about. You see, one of the biggest challenges, Dave, that I see is that loan originators, for as long as I've been in the business, and I've got a client, one in particular, who has this challenge right now, and we're working on it together. Loan originators have a very difficult time delivering bad news. In fact, they kind of run for the hills anytime there's bad news. So I'll paint a scenario. I tell a client I can get their loan done, no problem. Yeah, no problem. This is a piece of cake. Don't worry about it. I'll get it done. And I tell this because I've got a real estate agent on the transaction whose business I'm trying to earn. Oh, yeah, no problem. Don't worry about it. This deal's done. Go get another deal. We're good. We'll close in 30 days. And about 9 days into it, we get the declination from the lender. Oh, crap. What are we going to do now? We fight with the underwriter for about a day. Realtors calling, clients calling. Hey, did you get approval yet? Oh, no, we're still waiting. We're still waiting. We don't tell them that we've got a decline. Okay? We keep fighting with the underwriter. We finally figure out, you know what, the underwriter's not going to do this deal. All right, now we scramble and we start calling account executives and talking to other underwriters, trying to figure out where am I going to repackage and send this loan to. Now another day or two goes by. People are still calling. They're like, what the hell is going on? Oh, don't worry. You know, it's just their turn time's really long. We're lying through our teeth, okay, and we're digging our own grave. I mean, we've got the shovel out and the hole's getting deeper, and we're starting to nail, you know, put the nails into the coffin, okay. Finally, at some point in time, the client and the real estate agent figure out, you know what, something's not right here, and I'm not being told the truth, okay? And by now, they're insulted, they're offended, they feel disrespected, and you've completely ruined the relationship with the realtor, with the client, etc. My point is that you need to own it. And most importantly is in that situation, we tend to not, when we're lying, we don't feel good about ourselves. Nobody's that good of a liar. I mean, you know when you're not being straight, okay? And now we start to feel bad about who we are. We start to feel like, you know, gosh, I'm not very truthful. We start to feel like, you know, I'm not very good at what I do. I should have seen this coming. I should have never promised this in the first place. We start having all these internal conversations with ourselves, which, by the way, affects the way you show up on your next phone call with a prospective client. When you're carrying all that stuff inside you, how can you be at the top of your game, confident and successful in closing the next lead when you're working on a deal right now where you're not telling the truth and you're feeling bad about yourself? You can't do it. You're human. So the next thing for good customer service, gang, is deliver bad news early, directly, and with solutions. Deliver bad news early, directly, and with solutions. The minute you get the declination, you pick up the phone and you own it. You know what? The loan got declined. and I need to take responsibility for this. I apologize. I made a misjudgment. I thought for sure we could get this loan approved. I'm sorry. Please tell me what you're feeling right now. Let them vent. Let them get it off their chest. If they want to yell at you, if they want to tell you how bad you are, all those things, which, by the way, that's why we tend to avoid it, Dave, is because we don't want to be scolded. It reminds us of when we were 7 years old and our mom or dad scolded us, or when we were in school and we got scolded by our teacher or our baseball coach or whatever. I mean, it's human nature. None of us want to deliver this bad news because we don't want to feel bad about ourselves. But the thing is that when you come from a place of lack of integrity, you ultimately feel even worse about yourself. You have an opportunity in this situation to actually save the day by owning it, being a big person about it, and providing solutions. So it goes something like this. You know, Dave, I erred. I don't know what else to say. I'm really, really sorry, and I know that you put a lot of confidence in me and my abilities and my word, and I made a mistake. But I've researched this loan with 2 other lenders. They've both told me that they think that they can get it done, and I'm in the process of submitting a package to both of them, or to one of them, or whatever the case may be. I don't know if they accept copy packages or whatever, but and say and just let them know that I'm going to make this is my top priority, and I want to make this up to you. I want to waive, my processing fee because I don't believe that I deserve to be charging you that, considering that I've made an error here, and I'm going to get this deal done for you. And just own it and show some integrity. And when you do, you send a really positive message to yourself. The last thing, and I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I could go through my entire perfect loan process, but for the sake of the time that we have on this call, the last thing that I'll share, and this I passionately believe is the single most important thing in your service system, is the issue of not having surprises when it comes to money. Nothing will upset a consumer more. And it doesn't matter how good, I mean, you could send movie theater tickets upon loan approval. You could, buy them a new plant for their home. You could waive your processing fee. You could make a 0.5% total commission and give them the best rate in the world. It doesn't matter. If they walk into closing and the number that they're asked to bring in terms of a check is different than what they expected, you're likely to never get that person again. So this is a really critical piece to the equation. The unfortunate fact is, in this business, you as a loan originator are obligated to provide all these numbers well in advance. And in many cases, you don't even know who the outside service providers are going to be, how much for sure the appraiser is going to charge, whether the escrow company is going to have any junk fees in there, etc. But boy, you are responsible to provide that good faith estimate of closing costs when you're pre-approving this person on a purchase transaction, as an example, well in advance. And that person gets that number locked in their head. $4,112.12 is my closing cost. And I'll tell you something. If 45, 60 days from now or 6 months from now, when they finally find a property, they walk into closing and that number is different, it's your fault. And it's terribly unfair. And it's ass backwards how the industry works. But you have an opportunity to make sure that you're communicating very clearly with the client up front and saying, this is an estimate of closing costs. So I want to call to your attention that I don't know for sure what the fees will be come time of purchasing this property. What I will tell you is that I will proactively keep you abreast as we learn the numbers, the true numbers. This is a ballpark estimate that you should take into consideration in terms of your preparation for closing. But what we will do is when we get loan approval, once we've found your property, we will communicate with the escrow and the title companies and the other outside service providers, and we will get you a new estimated final HUD-1 that will give you the very specific numbers. So when you walk into closing, it's exactly what you expected. That's critical because too many times, and I'm sure everybody on this call has had this happen, you have clients that come into closing and the closing company asks them for a check that's $400, $500, $600 more than what they expected, and you're the bad guy. And it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And that's the lasting memory that they have of you, and it's why they don't come back, and it's why they don't refer people to you. So those are a few things, and like I said, there's so many more, but those are a few things that I think are critically important in providing great customer service, Dave.
All right, so let's do a little bit of review. So Tim talked about just this, hierarchy of having some fiscal literacy, and I'm not going to go on too much about that because at this point in our industry, most of us are veterans. We've been around. We've got the basic fiscal literacy. You talked about delivering, the TCA to every client. I'm just going to put the whole front end and just call it a wow conversation. You need to be able to have a conversation that exceeds expectations. And Tim said something very powerful, very important. You need to teach something that they didn't already know. That's why I'm going to call it a conversation, not a presentation. Lots of times we'll call that the wow presentation. But in order to teach someone something they didn't already know, you got to ask questions. You got to have a conversation. One of my favorite things to do back when I was an originator, and I still teach loan officers, and every time I've taught someone and they've added this, they've always thanked me because it helped them surpass expectations. And that is, asking people, how old do you want to be when your home's paid off? Shut up, let them answer. And then, based on the loan we're getting or the loan that the trend that you have, how old are you going to be? And they're always going to be, not always, but the odds are they're going to be 5 to 10 years off course. So now you have an opportunity, as Tim mentioned, showing prepayment strategies and really filling that gap. No other loan officer asked that. It's not even something that they're contemplating as they're doing the loan. And so it's always one of those 70% of the times I can count on a layup if I do that questioning. But I want everybody to ask yourself, where do you rate right now on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being wow, and having that wow conversation? Then the next bucket from Tim's perspective is set proper expectations. Always under-promise and over-deliver. Where do you rate with that? On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being wow. Next bucket, by the way, this isn't the order that he put it in, just the order that I decided to deliver it back to you, which is the no surprises. And I kind of put that no surprise, Tim, from your blog post in the bucket on focusing on little things. There's more to it than that, but he is so right. I mean, when people get loans and homes, so many times they're buying a monthly payment, and they're buying how much money they're taking out or putting in their pocket. If you screw up on either one of those things, it's not a wow. So, if it's an estimate, as Tim said, make sure it's an estimate. Delivering bad news, again, his formula, I think it's just brilliant. Bad news early, own it, and always deliver it with solutions. Where do you rate right now? Where do you rate on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being exceptional? So we are getting towards the tail end. Tim, we're going to close with this question. What are some other success habits of your clients? But I do want to see if anybody in the audience wants to raise their hand. I also, while I'm waiting to see if anybody does raise their hand to bring them into the conversation, I want to point out to connect with Tim Braheem. If you are not connected with him in LinkedIn, urge you to do that. That is a way to be updated and alerted to his future blog posts, anything that Tim's doing. I also urge you to go to his website, Performance Experts. Tim, what is the web address?
www.performance-experts.com.
So you heard that. Again, that website is just getting more and more robust. Seems like every time I go to it, Tim, you've added another layer of content and value for both people that want to know more about what you do as well as for your clients themselves. So I urge you to connect with Tim in those two ways. So let's see. We do not have questions.
Hey,
so
Dave,
Tim,
I'll just add something real quick that, just to support something you just said, which is that I took, and this is, 15 years ago probably, that question that you suggested to ask everybody, which is how old do you want to be when you have your house paid off? And sometimes I ask it from a perspective, how old do you want to be when you retire, and kind of couching that into the same subject, and implemented that into my presentation, then used the principal reduction strategy in the total cost analysis, which, by the way, is a really great, I'm sure most of you are doing this right now, but it's a really great angle to be taking with people that you're doing, say, no points, no fees refis for right now, as an example. People that have a 30-year loan that has 23 years left on it, and giving them the same payment refinance that they have right now, but reducing their term to 20 years, and showing them that they knock 3 years off the loan, and how it runs congruent with their strategy to be debt-free by the time they retire. So it's a great strategy, and I just want to support what you're saying, because I actually used that very effectively as an originator myself, pursuant to your teaching. So yeah, it definitely works.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of close out some parting thoughts I had, and then come back in, close it with questions for Tim. So I did have a couple slides, just knowing some of the content. Again, if you do raise your hand, we will bring you into the conversation. I know some people are asking some questions in the chat. I don't typically bring those into the conversation, but Tim, there's someone who wants to hook up with you as a coach, wants to learn more about that. But anyways, I'll bring those in a minute. I just want to put some closing thoughts. One of the things I brought up, Tim brought it up, I kind of put it in the category of the wow conversation, is that rate quote. And so many of you are so missing that opportunity because you're not delivering. If anybody said they're not delivering a TCA at the point of sale, you're not making that wow memorable impact early enough so that during the time that that person's in process, that they're really going to refer business to you. They're going to wait and see what happens. Whereas if you wow them at the point of sale, they're not just going to wait to do business with you. Tim, I'm just curious, how many times did you get a referral during the process of the loan, and how would you rate that period of time versus post-closing as a referral opportunity? I'm just curious.
How would I rate, just to make sure that I understand your question, how would I rate
how important is it to get referrals while they're in process? Would you consider that a fertile time to get referrals?
I think it's a terrific time to get referrals. I think that, if you're someone who is comfortable asking for referrals, which, full disclosure, I never was. I mean, it was just not never my forte. I could never get that script down.
Well, you didn't do it with a script. You did it with how you execute.
Yes, I did it with service. I got referrals purely with service, never from asking for referrals. But I certainly admire those that can ask, and I think it's a great business practice. It's just never my strength. If you can ask for referrals, the best time ever to ask for a referral, ever, is when you call them to tell them that their loan's approved. I mean, there's never going to be a better time. I mean, you want to ask for a referral right when you're delivering good news, right when you're at the peak of admiration in the eyes of that client. Probably the second best time would be, after they've signed their loan documents, but that's under the assumption, once again, that they walked in and their expectation of how much money they needed to bring in and the terms of the loan and all that were in accordance with what they thought they were going to be getting. But those are the two best times, and I think that, to your point, if you're providing dramatic and dynamic customer service, there's several touch points within a loan transaction where you have the opportunity, golden opportunity, to ask for a referral and get one, and it could be anything from a very simple, do you know of anyone that might be in need of my services, to, I would love to have an opportunity to work with 3 people that that I can assist in refinancing or getting a purchase loan. Can you please give me 3 names of people that I should call on your behalf and mention your name? I mean, if you really want to be bold, you could say something along those lines. But it's real tough for somebody to say no to you when you are providing them with great news and you've done a great job for them.
Right on. So again, we are aligned on that. And again, my recommendation, folks, is, I was not terribly comfortable myself with calling people early in the process. I always thought, hey, let my actions speak. I did implement, as my company grew, to have a customer care rep call people about 2 to 3 days after the loan was turned in, and the scripting goes something like, hey, I'm just calling to make sure you're happy with the service so far and to see if you have any outstanding questions. And if they got a green light, the person was wowed, there were no issues, outstanding issues, then they started training them. You know, by the way, do you have any family members who'd benefit from a total cost like the one that Dave provided? And it was effective. And then that same person, it went back and forth whether it was me. I didn't do the at approval, so that's a great idea, Tim. Didn't do that. But a few days after closing, called up, and assuming the closing went well, you make that call. By the way, you make the call either way. If the closing didn't go well, it's an apology. But if the closing does go well, it's a celebration, and it's a reminder that, hey, would really appreciate any referrals. So those are, from my perspective, the key touch points to getting the most referrals and delivering the most impact to the client. So again, I urge you all, make sure you're delivering that total cost analysis with each and every client. And if you just become one with a few of these quotes, this isn't Tim's quote, but I'm sure it's one that he believes in. Service isn't doing what's expected. Service is doing more than what's expected of us. Make sure you embrace that. Stop selling loans, start delivering a wow experience. And, this call has been recorded, so if you want to listen to it again, if you want to urge peers in your office to listen to it again, you guys know where to get it. Also want to remind everybody to be active on the Mortgage Coach Facebook page. That's where we get a lot of ideas for these calls, and we do respond to any and all questions on that. So with that said, let's give one last look to see if any questions have come up. Anybody raise their hand? They have not. Tim, where is the University of Santa Monica? No pun intended, everybody, Santa Monica. I don't know if that was a joke question.
It's in Santa Monica, California. Go figure. It's on 21st and Wilshire Boulevard in Santa Monica, and it's a university that's been there for 36 years now, and they offer one degree, and it's a master's degree in spiritual psychology, and yes, it's a tremendous program, something that I've really been very happy and honored to go through and be a part of. So
good. Well, Tim, it's been a great call. We're going to close with a great quote. I know I'm a fan of it, and I know you are, but good is the biggest enemy to great. And I urge everybody to up your standards of execution, embrace this call, raise your level of customer service. Tim, any parting thoughts? And also remind everybody how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you. Just parting thought is just that if you want to receive my blog every month, just go to LinkedIn and just send out an invitation to me, and I'll be happy to accept you, and then you'll be on the list, and that's the way that you get continuing correspondence from me. And just say thank you to everybody for listening in today, and if anybody has any additional questions that they want to just send me via LinkedIn, I'm happy to answer them for them. And they don't have to be about customer service. I can answer questions for you about just about anything. So.
All right. Well, this call is a wrap, my friend. Thank you very much, Tim. It's been great having you on the call.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
All right. Take care, bro.
Bye-bye.